Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm here with another tutorial today. This time we're going to be focusing on another body feature instead of in the past where I was doing more lighting effects and stuff like that. We're going to be doing a tutorial on wings. Now screw it, everyone's done tutorials about wings. I'm going to try and more so complement what else you can find rather than restate the same information. Because, everyone draws them a little bit differently, and I feel as though I might as well throw my information out there as well. And I've actually started this by pulling up a couple of references for you. Because one thing I'm seeing a lot with wings is they're not drawn right. Now, obviously, you can't really fault people for it. You could very easily argue style and semantics and stuff like that, but there's a couple things that always irk me whenever it comes to people drawing wings, and I figure I'm gonna just show you what I mean with this. So on the left you have a normal human arm. Pretty straightforward. How they got it, well, I'm not gonna go into details of that, but let's just say it's for scientific research. And on the and on the left we have a bat wing. Of course, the skeleton of it. And I have these two here to kind of show you the differences between them. Flipping it back because the joke's dead. Not even so much differences, actually. Show you the similarities between these two. Because, well, everything kind of has a common ancestor. You see a lot of similarities in bone structure and in other similar things like that. And wings are no different. While functionally hugely different from arms, they actually, you can draw a lot of comparisons. For example, over here, for hand, you have I believe it's metatarsals is what these are called, and then you have the 3 bones in every single hand that make up the finger. Thumb being the only real exception, because thumbs are important to people. And over here, you have much the same thing. So I'm just going to draw this out. You have the metatarsals. I'm going to draw the thumb 1 and 2 because I can. Then you have 1, 2, 3. A little bit longer. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then 1, 2. Over for the bat wing, you have much the same structure. The image I have here doesn't actually show what's going on up in the top there, but I assure you it's very similar to right here. But it has 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Does that one actually have like a tip to it? I think that does. Oh, strange. Then 1, 2. So if you were to draw this in comparison, say by actually grabbing this and moving it down. We're getting to the sciencey part of the video. I'm sorry about that, but I have to show this. You have arguably a very similar thing, wherein people have webbings in between your fingers right about there. They have their webbing at the end. And of course it goes down here, but in bats it actually connects to their foot, doing footy things. But you have much the same thing, wherein it's just the membrane gets stretched out along with all the bones are stretched out with it. So when you're drawing a wing on a character, why is that set to opacity? When you're drawing a wing on a character, you're literally giving them another limb, or at least you should always consider it as such. It may serve a much more linear purpose for what it's used for, but you're still giving them a limb. Of course I forgot to erase this bit. And I've always tried to reflect that with my characters that have wings or appendages like that, but actually adding in a lot more weight to the character, because having four arms is going to make you quite a bit heavier. Don't care what you say about how strong you are, you're going to be a lot heavier for having 4 arms rather than just 2. So please just understand that that's something that you need to address when character designing. Now that I have that out of the way, let's actually get down to how I draw wings. So right here, I just have a basic sketch thrown out. I mostly wanted this thing to focus on the structure of the wings and a drawing of a wing, rather than like a character with wings. While it is really supposed to be how to draw a character with wings, I think for the sake of this tutorial, it'd probably be smarter to actually draw in the wing itself. Or, not really the wing itself, but focusing on the wing. So, we have a profile view. Now, I'm going to start this off right here. I'm going to be drawing character of mine, Jade, who I've given wings to. Now, the design is a little bit old. She's one of the characters that I need to make a new reference for, mostly just to make it more accurate. I'm actually surprisingly okay with the quality of the reference I made back then. But the wings are going to be a little bit different in this case. But it's still nice to have a reference. Always have references if you can. So, how we're going to start this off is I have the basic sketch of Jade. More so, it could be any character type of sketch. That's what the basic one is for. It's just for a pose. And we're going to start this off by basically drawing in this arm, but for the wing. Now, if you remembered with the bat, it was a lot longer and a lot more pronounced than the arm of the regular person. Right here versus right here. Now, this one is a little bit longer, but not terribly. So, that's kind of reflected over here. And of course, her wings are very, very large. So, I always try to encompass that. Plus, being a succubus character, I can have fun with the design a little bit. I don't have to make it so strict. But, this one goes down, other arm goes up, and while this should be straight, again, I kind of took a little bit more of a fun turn on this. I'm actually going to increase the size of the canvas here. Where am I going with this? With pushing sides with absolute limits. And I'm going to have the extra arm, essentially, dipping down, back up, and then kind of flaying out. Kind of like if you imagine holding your arms really close to your body and then spreading out your fingers kind of like a velociraptor. That, like you're imagining being a velociraptor. Imagine pet wings like you're a velociraptor. There you go. Quote of the year. Just started this off. So you have the first finger, second finger, third finger, and fourth finger. Now, I don't actually put in the thumb for my sakes because I don't actually give her like a spiked anything on here, and she doesn't use the wing as an appendage. She uses it mostly just for flying and for combat of some sorts. So there's no real need to do so. But all of these do have to sweep back a little bit. And keep in mind that they should be roughly the same distance away. Now, if you get yours to actually line up with the elbow again, that might be beneficial to you, just so you can angle this all correctly. And, oh, I need to actually raise her up just a little bit. And one little addition that I make on mine is I put a extra spike at the elbow. Because I need somewhere for the membrane to actually attach down here. And I can't do it the same way that bats have it, because it connects, this membrane here would connect directly to the leg, and I can't have it connect to the leg in this character design. So I have it connect here, which it then bounces back up into the body. Because if I didn't do it this way, it would be connecting directly to the elbow, and that causes an area with no membrane, and that looks really awkward and is not usable for flying. So I do it in this style. Now I should point out that the bone here actually starts at the scapula, which is the flat part at the top of your back, the flat bone. You should be able to actually feel it if you put your arm back. And it sounds weird because I'm actually doing it, and I don't know why I'm doing that. But that's where I have it attached to, which is the same place that or is not the same place the arm attaches to, but it's a contributing factor. So that's how I use it for anatomical purposes. And if this wing is splayed out, the other wing should be too. And given the angle, I'm actually going to have this wing come back just a little bit more and not be so splayed out. Maybe she's just showing off to somebody or threatening them. Don't know. Now, I don't actually put the lines for the fingers on the back of the wing because I kind of like the aesthetic of that being a more smooth surface without the lines, since I actually put the lines in for those. But I do shade it as though they were there. So in this case, it would be smart to have these sketches in, but for the sakes of the final image, they're not actually there. Having this one curved back would be smarter, and then there you go. So there you have it, the basic outline of the wings. Now this is a little bit more difficult to see, but I'm going to go in and kind of refine the sketch a little bit more so here in a second, and you should be able to see the more final version. So I'm actually going to kick this into a real quick time lapse just so I can put the more refined sketches in, and probably even do the line work for the body, and then I'll show you a little bit more on the lines of the wings. I will be right back. And welcome back. So like I said, I kind of went ahead and put all the line work in on this side because, you know, there's no reason for me to have to sit all of you guys through that. It's because it's not what it's about. It's about the wings, man. It's about the wings. We're here for the wings. So, naturally, I put in the more refined sketch here. And one thing I should point out, actually, you know, we'll get to that point when we actually get to it. So, let's get started with the back of the arm. Back of the arm? Yeah, back of the arm. As I said before, it swoops down really quite low and then has a chance to pick all the way back up, actually going above the head in this case. So the forearm in this case, or the front of your arm would probably be called a forearm. It would be absolutely freaking huge. Down here, it's like, you know, that long, roughly. Of course, that's angled backwards. That's why it's a bit shorter. But let's see. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, 4.5 of those. It's a bit large, and the fingers are no joke either. Of course, this is designed to be kind of a really large wing, anyways, so it's understandable. Although surprisingly, Jade actually had smaller wings in the past. Probably even smaller than her arms. I don't remember what my reasoning was for that. I think they were just supposed to be a addition because she was a succubus and I needed something to make her seem like one. But without making her just look like a total slut, because that's not what the character design is. It's more so feeding on emotion rather than just trying to steal guys' souls. Oh yeah, succubi stole female souls too, right? Yeah, I believe so. Anyways, same goes for the back. There's, as I said before, there's no finger things, none of that. And notice how I didn't put in the membrane yet. Mostly because I wanted to show you guys that the membrane itself, in this case, is going to be opaque. See, I'm using these words correct. It's going to be opaque, so you won't be able to see the other wing and anything behind it. Which, actually, I just realized I'm going to have to erase this out in a moment. Sad, I hate erasing lines like that. But the, one thing you have to know is, because this is basically a sheet of skin stretching across this whole thing, if it's spread out like this, then the skin becomes really tight and firm. So you don't have as many, basically there's less skin. So these things won't dip up very much. Wherein if it was really loose, like say if the wing was pulled in like this, then all of them would be kind of going up like this because all the excess skin is kind of being pulled in, or it would have kind of like a weird loopiness to it. But because this one is flayed out as though you were kind of putting out all 4 of your fingers as wide as possible. I say 4 because the thumb isn't really included in this. But if you were trying that, you would kind of know the feeling because your skin would suddenly feel really tight on your hand. And that's what we're trying to match here. So I'm not sure I have to go back through and erase this because I'm a dork and I didn't think ahead, even though I had the sketch right there. I didn't have to erase that down there. Freaking out. I'm freaking out, man. I have to make everything up on the fly. Alright. I did the wings on a separate layer to make this a bit easier on myself. feel free to do so yourself. And of course, this actual tutorial works very well for traditional and digital media, because I'm more focusing on the form and the design of it rather than how you achieve the look with certain tools. And you can't forget the back wing down here, and this one, the membrane is right there as well. I generally go thinner lines for the membrane and for the fingers on the inside, wherein the outer thing gets a lot thicker. So like here and up here is much thicker than the membrane. Mostly because the membrane is supposed to feel like flimsy and thin, and I think that helps contribute to the overall design of it. And there you have it. Of course, by the reference in the background that whole time, I do great for cinematography. So there you have the wings. Looking at this right now, I probably should have brought the arm here a little bit more forward, but I think that this works pretty well for the overall look. So that's the lines. Now I'm going to kick into time-lapse again as I color it, because again, this isn't about coloring it, this is about other features of it. So I'll be right back with you guys. And we're back. So put in all the colors. It's not terribly important that you know what they are or why they're there, so let's just go straight into the shading. So I'm actually going to do this in a bit more of a cell style because I feel like it today. So the thing to remember with wings is the direction that this thing is going, the membrane is going. Because even if it's splayed out, it's very, very rare that it's perfectly flat in between the individual fingers, because the wind is hitting this. So obviously it's going to be bent either in this direction towards us or in this direction away from us. Those aren't arrows. Why on earth did that one's pointing that way. Apparently it's going in this direction. Dork. So really what it comes down to this is what direction they would naturally be going versus what direction they should be going in this context. Now, there's nothing here indicating wind of any type of direction, so they should be going the natural direction, which is out. How can I properly describe this? So, they would naturally be going, as I pointed over here, not really downwards, but away from us from this wing and towards us with this wing. Because they naturally want to curve like this, and they naturally kind of want to go with the flow of your hand. If you kind of curl your hand inwards, you can kind of get the idea. If that was the wing out back, then it would just curve outwards. Also imagine if I'm trying to put this into words that you properly know what I'm saying. So you can also imagine it as though she was flying, the air would force them to go upwards if she was flat. So in this case, imagining that the sun is just like default over here, because that's the easiest to imagine. Then the dark spots would be, I'm just a mess right now. Jeez, what am I doing recording? I should just stop this a different day, but I can't. But we can just imagine that the shading would be on this side of every single segment. And of course, in my shading tutorial, I talk about how to do a cell style shaded, or cell shading style. I really can't talk right now. So, if I could get this to work right. Come on. I will find you in a moment. So basically, all of this edge would be in darkness. And then over here would be much, much darker. Because this half would be catching more light, because this half will be higher. And if I knew what I was doing, I'd be able to do this properly. So you can go all the way up. And when you get up to the top here, you just kind of assume that the whole thing is a little bit more shaded. Mostly because that's just kind of a mass lump of bone, and so it will protrude out a little bit more than the rest. So as I refine shading on this side too, I don't even know why I'm erasing this. I'm going to have to put a highlight in here in like 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm not even going to erase this other side. Oh, that's not erasing at all. And I immediately erase the other side. So, you get the highlights, which is obviously just the brighter version, and you go down on the opposite side. This is definitely a case where either end of the finger is going to be having the brightest lights associated with it. Either the darkest darks or the brightest lights. It's not exactly the brightest lights are going to be next to it. Mostly because the finger being the most raised area of this is going to be catching the most light. And since it's raised, the exact opposite side will be getting the least amount of light. So we can infer that this is what it should look like. Of course, this is a much more simplified version. There would probably be a lot of other variables to take into account with this, and gradients, and things like that, but I feel like doing a bit more of a cell style, so this is what you're getting. Besides, this is not exactly a tutorial for the shading of this. It's more so for the anatomy and generalizations of it. Aha. And then it might jump up a little bit along the bottom edge, because again, the edges will be catching a lot of light compared to everything else. And as long as we imagine that as it goes up, it's not able to catch as much light, there you go. You have the internals of the wing. Now, this whole area inside is kind of bland, so one way you can go about it is to bring out the shading even further than what I did. That way, at the very least, it's a little bit less drab, a little bit less space to be boring, really. So, as I quickly throw in that stuff, and I throw it in, and it looks better than what I did before on live, where it got the back of the wing will actually work much the same way. So, preserve opacity, just for the sake of digital art, we can do this. But because this half will be pointed outwards, we can infer that the shading would be like this. But because it is the back of it and it's pointed to the light, it's actually going to be really, really bright with very minimal effort put into, very minimal work put into the recesses of the shadows, because this area is going to be catching a lot of light. Now, as it kind of comes back, it's not going to be catching so much, and back here, it should be actually quite dark. But we're not going to have the sudden contrast like we're going to see on the inside. And you could argue that this inside shouldn't have any highlights at all because of where it is in relation to the light, assuming it's directly behind her. Then this one would actually be completely in shadow. But for the sakes of this drawing, I'm assuming it's not. Don't worry, guys, that's okay to do. Secrets. They're safe with me. So, the shading will go much the same way, only in reverse. Now, and again, you won't have nearly as much of darkness. So this spot will basically just be a single spike of dark compared to over here where there's this whole slew and whole line of it. And then all the light spots are all connected. But you still have that idea of these fingers in the shading. While they aren't visible, they're not actually the lines for it, they're still there. The idea of the membrane in between them is still there, and they're still pushing out, and they're still being there. So you have to incorporate that into the design. So, if that's the wings shaded in, I might refine them a little bit more in a moment when I'm doing the rest of the shading, but just thought I'd slow it down here and not time-lapse through another potentially important part of the wing design. Speaking of time-lapse, I'm going to kick it into time-lapse for a third time in the video. Man, I just love time-lapse today, don't I? And I'll be right back with you, which I'll do the roundup. And welcome back. So, just kind of wrapped up the shading a little bit, added in a random background of just some pretty looks and colors, and I thought I'd give a bit of a roundup as I clean up the line art just a little bit here and just put in some final touches. So,
as usual with these videos, if you or anyone you know wants to see a certain style looked at or anything shown, it could be like bodily features, it could be a certain shading style that I could research and kind of break down for you. I'm up for trying pretty much anything that I would be willing to draw. Then, if you have any ideas like that, shoot me a comment, message me, or email me. My email is going to be at the end of the video. If you liked what you saw here today, then feel free to try it out yourself. If you like what you made, then show me. I'd love to see what you have. That always makes my day when I see people actually using my tutorials. Even if you don't like what you made, show me. It always makes my day. So, why am I moving around so much? I should just throw down my signature, let the video be. And 15. I'm still surprised I've not yet messed that up. It looks like I won't be anytime soon. Alright. Have this fill the screen better. Thank you all for watching. I hope you had a wonderful day. And, as usual, see you next time.